Well, today we have Michael Savage, the CEO of Channel Group, on the podcast. I've known Mikey 7 years now. We met through a mutual business acquaintance. So, Michael, listen, I'm going to put it over to you to do a wee quick introduction for yourself.
Perfect. Thank you very much, James. Absolutely delighted to be here. I'm Michael Savage, the CEO, Managing Director of Channel Group. Channel Group is a multi-facet finance brokerage. We cover off commercial funding, property funding, asset funding, cash flow loans. We have focus predominantly on the SME market, small to medium enterprise businesses.
Yep.
That are probably finding it a wee bit more difficult in the current market. If you mean Bank of England base rate going up and down like a yo-yo, there's no much consistency within that. So having a good, sound, ethical broker like we are, it's good. And our strap line has not changed since I started this business up 8-9 years ago. It's been, we're just bringing the bank manager back. We work with the banks. We work with specialist lenders. And it's key critical for us to be the middleman between the banks and the client. The client is who we work for. So we're trying to get the best rate possible and the best outcome in the deal structure. So
Sure.
That's that for that and the rest of my team, which has grown considerably over the last 6-7 months. We went from a team of having like 2 or 3 people to now having over 11 people.
Wow.
Within our office, headquartered in Glasgow Business Park, and we've also extended that out and went on to a wee kind of a different area just outside kind of a Cardiff, where we've got another 2 which focuses on something that can complement what Channel Group has to offer. So it's exciting times. I'm loving having the platform and you inviting me through, James, to kind of a talk through, because I'm excited to what the future can hold, but I'm also necessarily very proud for where I've came from.
Absolutely.
And if I can help anyone, that's what you're all about, because you've helped me.
Absolutely. And that's what this podcast is about, is success or excuses. Now, let's rewind a wee bit.
Yep.
I've obviously been, a big part of your journey. We've known each other. I mean, we consider it, I would say, one of my best friends
100%.
through business. We met through business.
Yeah.
So I kind of know your journey. It hasn't always been smooth sailing, Mikey. Go and talk us about the early days, the things that you've been through.
Definitely. I think every day has been a learning curve. Not 2 days are the same. It's been challenging. I think you need to have a bit of backbone, very much a lot of resilience. And it drives you to probably your testing point, and that's not always from a positive perspective, because there's been some times where that I've phoned you, do you know what I mean? And I wouldn't say it's got to like a kind of a critical mass point of view, but the old dreaded thoughts come over. If you mean, why am I doing this? What am I doing it for? Do you know what I mean? What's the point? I'm keeping kind of getting knocked back after knockback, if you mean. And it's like running a basically you're effectively running a race, if you mean. So you're like a horse. If you mean, you're not the jockey, you're effectively the horse. If you mean, you go over your first fence, if you mean, and you're kind of going on, and you get to the kind of a second fence, you keep going on. The fences just get, it's like Grand National, they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then that's when you kind of need to stand up in a resilience. And it's tough, because there's a lot of things that's involved within running an FCA directly authorised business, and I've got 2 of them. So the time that goes in to make sure that we're credible, to make sure that we're kind of a fully professional, to make sure that we've got the right people carrying out the right jobs, to make sure that you're sending out the right message. It's tough. Plus you've got the banks who effectively you can compete against, and they're looking down on you, kind of saying, right, who is this guy? Who is he? What's he doing? Do you know what I mean? Is he
Get in your lane.
Yeah, it's tough. And then you're bringing on different people. I think the biggest challenge, and I've listened to a lot of other podcasts, the biggest challenge is kind of working with people. And that's what I've found, if you mean. So I'm a people's person. I would like to say that I'm a relationship-driven person, but a relationship-driven broker. So, and that works both ways. From a client perspective, if they know what I'm about and I know what they're about, then I can help them. The same with lenders and specialist funders. If I know what their offering is and I want to work with them, and they put the time in with me and the rest of my team, then we can kind of work together. So we are very much kind of a relationship driven. But then it comes down to like a numbers game. You have to satisfy kind of a meeting numbers. You have to kind of do this, and then it becomes all challenging. And that's where you kind of need the resilience, and you need the people. You always need to bring people in that is better than yourself. I'm not sitting here as Michael Savage. I'm the best finance broker in Scotland. If you mean, I'm not coming in and saying that I can be the best at that, I can be the best at that. If you mean, we have got a few people within the business now, asset finance, within the property side of things, within the invoice factoring side, within the special and funding side, within the second charge market, mortgages as well. And each of the guys that I've got working with me, not for me, working with me because we're a team, they're all better at that skill set than I am.
Yep.
That's the beauty about having a team. So it's challenging, but along the way, I've had some absolutely horror stories with horror people, and it's just it's been difficult, very, 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 very difficult. So yeah, it's
most of our problems are people problems. However, I want to go back. I'm not sure how comfortable you're sharing this, Mikey. You went through what I would consider one of the biggest health scares that any human being could go through. So I want to just briefly kind of touch on. I want you to briefly talk about it. And I'll tell you why. Because this podcast is success and excuses, right?
Yes.
And most people in that circumstance could have made excuses and felt sorry for themselves. But as a business owner, you bounce back at speed. Go and talk about the mindset that required that. What were you going through, and how did you manage to bounce back so fast?
So in September 2020, I get diagnosed, or I went through the surgery in the September part, with a meningioma, brain tumour. That came as quite as a shock, because prior to that, during June, July time, I was fighting fit, I would say, probably needed to lose a couple of pounds. Stress was a kind of element there, migraines, just different things that you were going to the doctors about, and we were living in the world of COVID at that particular time, so that was extremely challenging. It came as a bit of it was a bit of a disaster, obviously, and on my family, I had to kind of just be man up, so to speak. So you go in, you get the kind of a diagnosis, and I didn't know at that particular time it was a meningioma. There's there's several different tumours that you can kind of have. The meningioma type of tumour is benign, just non-cancerous. However, I was told when I went into hospital and presented myself and went for a CT scan and then subsequently an MRI scan through Wishaw, it was cancerous. So that was tough. That was the most tough part of it. It was kind of a challenging. But then, like what you do in your personal life, but you kind of have to doing business, you need to put a face on. So what I was thinking to what I was kind of displaying was two different things. In my heart and my mind, if you mean, and my body, if you mean, I was trying to be as resilient as I possibly can, but the truth is I was crumbling. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't know what the future held. I've got a daughter, if you mean, I've got family, parents, my brothers, the wider kind of a connection, best friends, if you mean. It went from I'm having a decent life here to I could be dead within 2, 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And that was pretty tough. I mean that was pretty tough. So
you definitely put on a front.
100% I put on a front.
Because me and you were laughing about it and all that.
100%.
What if you don't make it through, big man? I want your trainees and all that.
I'm pretty morbid at the best of the time. You can't have these because you've already got them. But I've had I can be pretty morbid at the best of times. But I think that's a front. Let's just get down to who Michael Savage really is. Jovial, fun, decent, lovable guy. Do you know what I mean? Do anything kind of for you. But when you're hit with the end is nigh, so to speak, You just have to put on that front. Again, bearing in mind, I have to be strong for everyone else round about me. But you're shitting yourself. Really deep down, you're shitting yourself. And that's got a lasting toll. Not only as you as a person, but that's got a lasting kind of a toll on you as a business person, as a kind of a leader. And do you know that way you're just crying out when you're lying in bed? And I genuinely did do this at the Queen Elizabeth. And I thought, if I get a second chance here, there is so much I'm going to change. Because not everybody's ideal great character that everybody makes out. I've got faults as long as you're at them. Do you know what I mean? But I think my good traits far outweigh my bad traits. Never ever done anybody a bad turn. Never ever kind of fucked anybody over, so to speak. I'm very genuine. I'm very passionate about what I do with anything that I do. I'm probably the guy that if you're in trouble, you pick up the phone.
I would agree with that.
And I'll sort something out, just like you have been to me, James. 1,000,000%. I'll try and do what I possibly can. You can't fix everybody's problems. You're not Superman. But if you can go along with a kind of taking the pressure off the person that's going through that. So that stage of my life was very, very challenging. And all I can do from that perspective is thank everybody there who went on that journey with me. Now, there's people there. There is 100% people there who are along for the kind of a ride, who are in business with me. That just took the piss. That just kind of says, we'll do this for you, Michael. But all they were interested in was furnishing their palm with money, and making sure that they were fully compensated and making sure that they were kind of having money. And then when I started to get a bit better, then that's when their true colours showed. And that was, for me as well, there were a bit of reckoning there. I'm thinking, right, okay, he's not the person that I thought he was, or she's not the person that I thought they were. But in business, you just need to go on with it. Do you know what I mean? You just need to kind of move on. So I fought through as hard as I possibly could. I had a vision. And not a lot of kind of people know this, because I've did a couple of podcasts over time, but I've never ever went into the depth that I've went into with you, James. But I had a vision and I wanted to set up a business. And when we're coming through COVID, I went back to work within a very, very, very short period of time after having a 9.5-hour surgery.
I remember it.
Yeah, and then I caught an infection, and then I had to go back down for other surgery, which was about 7.5 hours, to remove 75 to 80 millilitres of kind of a fluid, which was like an epidural type thing. You had to drain the fluid from your back. That was causing kind of the infection. And then that second round of funding, they took part of my bone plate away, which was catastrophic for me, because I'm actually a very good looking guy.
I would agree with that, big man. I will agree with that.
Good looking guy, and that played a lot in your mindset when
it knocked your confidence a wee bit, didn't it?
Massive. Again, I put on a big show. My head was like a windy wiper, if you mean. So you see like my hair, because you had to kind of brush it forward, and it was fucking blowing back and forward and everything like that. And in between that, you had like a big crater effectively that was missing. So that did play a huge part on my mental capability. Mental health's a big thing here. I'm not going to go down that route. I kind of saying it affected me, but it did affect what I did, how I did it, who I did it with. And I became a wee bit more enclosed within myself. And my family seen that, and that probably led to additional weight gain and different things, if you mean, because there's a catalyst effect, if you mean, because when you're feeling not well, because you don't want to go to the gym. Why do you not want to go to the gym? Because you feel like people are looking at you. And by the way, I'll be clear that now, it's not that way, because when you go to like gyms and different things, folk are there to help you.
Absolutely.
I mean, so it doesn't really matter what size you are or who you are or kind of where you came from. It's about where you're going.
Absolutely. People go to the gym to lose weight. The actual people in the gym are going, well done you.
Yeah.
You've made a choice.
Definitely.
I want to go back, right, to something. When you came out of the hospital, right, and I remember this vividly, and The business was falling apart. Well, we'll say falling apart, maybe too extreme, but it felt like everything was falling apart.
That was a shit show.
It felt like everything was falling apart. People that you trusted and you who were supposed to be standing by you while you went through that incredibly challenging time.
Yeah.
Weren't they there? Can you remember? Because I know you had two paths to go through, right? There was that path of feeling sorry for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And there was a path of, okay, I've just been through brain surgery. Okay, I'm feeling like shit. Okay, I'm not feeling good. Okay, my mental health. But something spurred you on. What made you just keep going? Because a lot of people would have just gave up at that point. Because you invested nearly everything in that initial startup business. You'd put everything into that. Life, soul, finance. And it was crumbling round about you. What was going through your mind at that time? Because I know there was two things. There was get up and start something else, or get up off Mars and just deal with it. What was that like?
I don't give up two things easy. I had a previous business where things didn't run quite as much to plan. And it was more from my property side of things, doing the estate agents and kind of the letting side. That always played in my mind because I could have done things differently. I didn't want to make the same mistakes again. So that was one of the first ones. Second thing is when you've got that entrepreneurial mindset, you've got that drive, you've got that hunger to succeed. And anything that you have went through in the past, which may kind of bear some form of negative, that was one of the things that kind of actually spurred me on. Family, the close-knit family, the friends that I had. And let's just be honest, I wanted to prove those fuckers wrong. I wanted to, so that there's one thing that I've got, if you mean one person, guy, and one woman, if you mean, that I just thought, fuck you, because I will make this work, and 100% will make it work. And I ended up working all hours God sent.
Unwell at the time as well.
Definitely.
Still no recovered.
Yeah. And I just started to, piece by piece, like a jigsaw. So you've got a 500-piece jigsaw. The first probably 10 pieces are the hardest. And I'm not going to lie, that was excruciatingly tough. It was painful. Because you've not got this ever-ending kind of a rainbow of cash. Do you know what I mean? There's a rainbow there, and then there's a pot, and then there's hundreds of cash. So you can just say, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. Let me dip into that. You certainly can't go to a bank. Because the bank's not interested.
Correct.
They don't care. I mean, they're not interested. If you mean entrepreneur, see you later on. Pacify you in a big mezzanine, if you mean leather suites and everything. Let's find out what you want to do, and then it goes. Computer says no. No
interest. I know. What is that about?
So for me, that element. Sorry, James. So that for me was kind of a like, right, okay. The market needs somebody like me. Where
was that going back to the vision you knew?
I
kept you going.
I just wanted to kind of it's one of my good friends, if you mean, John, his name is. He's came out a few times and he says, mate, you're the master of kind of just re-identifying yourself. I mean, just coming back up, reincarnate yourself. He says, like, wow, but I didn't really look at it that way. I just wanted to come from and put all my experiences and my knowledge and my education coming from an accountancy background and everything, and just just layer it brick by brick. This is what we want to do. Take inspiration from other people that are doing it well, but also take inspiration from stuff that they're not doing so well. And then put it all together. And I started looking further afield, starting looking at different markets within Europe, within the Americas, within England. I know that they're just our neighbours just down the road. And you start kind of having like, so I came obsessed with trying to build something that nobody else had. And I kept myself together within a vision, did less of the messing around, the fucking around, and just more of, this is where I want to be, this is where I want to go. And the first person I kind of brought into the business was, and he's going to love this because he was actually just messaged me about 5 minutes ago, make sure I get a mention. And I think it's only apt, by the way, and I give him a lot of, it's tough love with him, very much tough love. But he's a chap and he's a guy who is stuck with me.
Who is it?
Sean.
I know Sean. Yeah.
Sean McLean. Do you know what I mean? And Sean he's a character. If you
He's
mean
a dreamer.
Well, he can be. He can be. But
got big visions for what he's want to build for his future and his family.
And I love that. And Sean was the first piece of that jigsaw that I told you about. So I scrapped every single thing back, everything back. So when you had a woman there who brought in her own people and kind of did different things and wanted to do this and wanted to do that, and then had a look at something else, thought that was kind of a better, our styles clashed. But I wasn't, I don't know, how do you say this without being not disrespectful, but being kind of a very disrespectful? I am who I am. I don't need to pretend
Absolutely.
who I'm not.
It's cause on authenticity, mate.
I don't have to put on a voice. I don't have to go through elocution lessons.
Yep.
I don't have to sit in front and go to an opening of a crisp packet to put my point across.
Yep.
I get invited to lots of events, if you mean, that I've chosen not to go to, because at that particular time the platform wasn't there for me to build.
Yep.
Now it is.
Yep.
It's fucking now.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So I'll go back to Sean. He was the first jigsaw. I phoned Sean and I said, what are you doing? What's your thought process? Sean does football agency. He's a qualified FIFA football agent. He's got a lot of attributes that lend well to me. We got on like a house on fire. He's not the finished article by any stretch of the imagination. But one thing is loyalty, if you mean. And he's there every single morning.
Can he buy that, can you know? Can he buy it?
Every morning, early, last kind of a thing at night, does his job. So that for me was, right, okay, let's build something here. So we started to build round about Sean, and then different people kind of come on board and kind of come away. And we've got Carlos now, we've got kind of Hannah, we've got Laura, we've got Ashley, we've got Steve, we've got Katie, Simon. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of more people. Your Paul, your Darns, your Alexes. We've got all these kind of different people within the business now, all focusing their energies on their speciality and what they can do. And I'm at the back of that, probably, I don't know, like a conductor in an orchestra now. Do you know what I mean? And that's where my skill set is, if you mean. So
you're the football manager, making sure they're on their positions.
Listen, I'm not trying to like kind of own or take like the kudos for everything everyone else does, but I'm very good at bringing the business to the party, if you mean, and then letting the guys kind of go and do it. So you're kind of effectively conducting and saying, right, let's do this, let's bring that, and then we're just building and then building and then building. I started Channel Finance without a penny.
Wow.
Nothing that I got from nobody.
Yep.
Zero. Much to
call bootlace it. Self-funded, everything was
bank wouldn't help me, and that was another reason.
That was another reason. In a minute as well. By
that was another reason. That was another reason. If you mean that, I kind of thought I'm not going to let anybody come down. So you get people within businesses, and fair play to them. They might have that background where you have like a family member who's got a bit of money, or someone's willing to lend you some money. Unfortunately for me,
scary, isn't it?
I never had that network.
I agree. I'm exactly the same.
I had to go and look at it, if you mean, and not lean on anybody else apart from myself, if you mean. So if I was going to go out and do funding for you, kind of a James, then you're getting me as Michael Savage, and then you're trying to work it in like different kind of structures. Where the end game is I could be doing all this for nothing if this doesn't go to fruition. Yep. So you build your business on reputation. So then you deliver what you say that you're going to do, and never ever mess anybody around. And it's all key down to getting the right fact find, if you mean, getting the right information, making sure you've got the right kind of a lenders on panel, and you just kind of work it through there. Because in the back of my mind, I want to help people to do something which nobody really helped me with. Yeah. And that's a passion for me. It's like trying to get them the money that they require that potentially wasn't open to me. And I'm not saying that I went for a magnitude of different bank accounts, if you mean, or like overdraft facilities or whatever the case may be. I didn't really need it at that particular time. And you're talking to a guy who, see when the bounce back loans and that came out, I took 12 grand. Had you paid it off?
Aye.
When everyone else was probably taking 50, taking 250 and doing this, that, and that.
We took exactly the same. We were 12 grand. We thought that's enough to see us through.
And now I'm running effectively, and you can go into credit safe, and you can go into kind of your company's house. It's a 7-figure turnover businesses. Do you mean that we've got? Likewise with yourself, James, if you mean it's knowing your worth.
Aye.
100% knowing your worth.
I want to go back to this, right? The banking system, right? This is for people listening, right? Banking or setting up a business, first of all, it's really, really difficult. You've got to really have a passion and a really clear vision, and you mentioned that. But trying to borrow money, right? I mean, I remember when we were growing, right? And we're growing, and having the vision, you know what you can achieve if you did an extra 150 grand. And you go to your bank, right? And I mean, you hit $500,000, they're no interested. You hit $1 million, they're no interested. It's so difficult to even have a conversation with but I won't mention my bank, but it's so difficult to get a bank to take you seriously, isn't it?
The banks, high street banks, so there's different kind of types of banks. You've got your high street banks, which everyone in this podcast is going to know. So
your Bank of Scotland's, RBS's, Halifax's.
Yeah. The beauty is trying to find, and this is where like a good broker, you should work with a good broker. Let's get the kind of elephant in the room. Everyone thinks, brokers there that they're going to charge me money. Not necessarily. Depends on what you're looking for. 9 times out of 10, it's not really going to cost you anything. Best case scenario, you're going to get the best rate. But the beauty with working with a broker, it can take you to specialist lending. So you're not, if you are a manufacturer, going to your bank and walking in through the main doors and saying, by the way, I need £200,000 for some manufacturing equipment. I'm going to be like, don't really know where to start here. Fact. And then it goes down to how long you've been trading, what other assets can we take off you and behind the background, which is personal guarantees, and then making sure it's asset secured and whatnot. So that is not the right type of funding. Whereas if you come to somebody like me, and not just me, by the way, because there's many other good brokers throughout the UK, and I think we've got some of the best in Scotland as well. So I'm not limiting it all kind of effectively on me. I'm giving kudos to the wider network. And you come in and you go through like a proper fact find. We find out exactly what it is that you're looking for. Then you can take that to specialist elements, specialist funders, and say, let's kind of position this, and you can get terms up to 10 years for the types, for really specific types of equipment you're looking for. Hospitality sectors, haulage, engineering, bus and coach, recycling. There's a whole different recruitment. What you kind of do, James, if you mean training and development and everything, and it's not like an R&D. Do you mean it's different because you're looking for kind of a cash flow to come into the business because you're taking on kind of a bigger contracts. Then that could be some form of kind of a factoring facility that you can kind of get in place and put in place. So there's many different things, but going to a bank, they're not going to give you what you need. They'll talk a good game and they'll probably delay it for a while because they're trying to find out. It's not as if they're not trying to help you. They are, but they've just not got everything under the one roof. Whereas if you come to a broker, and I can only talk about myself in this instance, we've got access to over 130 lenders. And out of the 130 lenders, there's probably, for any given vertical market, there's about 10, 15 lenders within that that's going to suit your criteria. And that can be from the best credit imaginable, 999. If you mean tick, 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 you've got cash flow, you've got money, your EBITDA's kind of sitting where you kind of really want it to be. Or you have, like the majority do in business, you're up and down, you kind of, when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's really bad. Whereas you can kind of lean in your broker to go and say, by the way, I need some money here, and I need some money to pay this, I need some money to pay that, I need kind of money to kind of do this. And then you can check for alternative funders, or you might be able to kind of bring in an alternative loan. The beauty of Channel Finance now is we work with people that have got access to their own book money. So Channel effectively has its own fund of money that can help, not only, it can help people grow their businesses, but it can also help people that are in trouble. Do you know what I mean? So that's it, and then we'll use our network of funders to get out, and there's 4 or 5 lenders that we work with that we've got gold and kind of a platinum status with, and then we can go out and say, right, we've managed to give this business X amount of funding. It might be 50 grand, it might be 100 grand. I think the biggest deal that we've done is just over 900 grand of some a high net worth money. And then we'll be able to flip that onto a Together Money, a Shawbrook, an RBS, a Lloyd's Banking Group. So you get the picture. We'll be kind of flip that back on, but then that client will go and tell their friends, and they'll tell their friends, and
word of mouth,
and that's how it builds on.
Absolutely. Listen, it's an amazing journey. I want to talk about a couple of other things now. Like, obviously, you deal with a lot of businesses, SME markets, but a lot of them that probably come to you and they're really on their arse.
Definitely.
Right, they're really struggling. What would you say what's the biggest thing that causes the business to get to that point?
Mismanagement. Mismanagement, effectively not knowing the numbers, growing too quickly. And I think we've all been guilty of this.
Absolutely.
We've all been guilty of this. But getting a good grasp on your numbers, having a decent accountant, doing cash flow forecasts, these are the sorts of these sorts of things that you need. If you've got anything more than probably 3 employees, you need to have this. And if you're not doing it, then you need to have a proper conversation with your accountant to do it.
Problem is, most accountants don't even get involved in that. They're always telling you after the fact, aren't they?
Yeah, find them. Find ones that, like, I know my accountant's phenomenal. Do you know what I mean? He's there 24/7. It's even when we're submitting kind of like VAT returns, because how many I've got 5 businesses that are effectively within the kind of a channel group. Every single one of them, if you mean that he's kind of on the ball.
Good.
And it takes you to go through something a wee bit adverse, if you mean within business, to then be on point. Don't put yourself in that position. See if your accountant's not willing. Set out your stall right from the very, very start. If your accountant's not willing to put cash flow forecasts for you, they're not willing to kind of put MI in every 6 months. They're not willing to work with you and implement some form of Sage or kind of like a zero system.
Yep.
Quite simple. And I come from an accountancy background. Go and find somebody that can.
Yep, absolutely.
That's it. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not trying to lambash kind of accountants here, but go and find, because there are plenty of them.
Aye. There is some really good and there's a lot of really not so good.
You probably, unfortunately for me, you probably see a lot bad before you kind of see the good.
Absolutely.
But then you can put that down to the individual. So who's running that business? Because they're not asking their accountants questions, but at the same time, they don't know what questions to ask.
Thank goodness for Enos, I'll tell you that. Enos is my business partner who handles our finances. I just turn around to Enos.
Enos is amazing.
I just turn around to Enos, I'll say, Enos, can I afford to hire somebody? She'll go, yes or no. Or you in Q2, or she just basically says, that's how much she knows the numbers.
Enos is unique. I mean, personally and business-wise, she's very unique. Amazing. I love Enos.
No, I remember when I brought her into business, and I was literally doing everything myself. Everything.
Yeah.
The numbers, the building, the content, the selling, everything. And I remember saying to her about 7 years ago, babe, I really need you to come in and help me here. I'm drowning, man. My God, did she come in and help? No, I just leave it all to her. I like to call myself the visionary.
That's how you're flourishing.
The visionary. She literally takes all the problems away. Anyway, let's talk about that a wee bit. Let's talk about people in our lives, supporters, right?
Yes.
Right. Let's talk about the people in our lives that support that journey, because as we said, you've had a pretty horrific 4 or 5 years, right? I mean, in MD's terms, right, you've had a pretty shitty hand of cards that's been dealt, right? And you've always came through. But you've got somebody behind you. Go and talk about that, because I know you've always got your somebody behind you kind of pushing you all the time.
You mean on about my wife?
Your wife, absolutely.
Yeah, she's
very clever woman.
She's
very good leader.
She is. No, listen, she's amazing. Very, very down to earth, very loving, very caring, very switched on.
Gives great advice.
She does. But sometimes
this has been recorded, so I'm going to be taking it.
I know, but sometimes you don't take it. If you're in any environment where you've got a partner or whatever, if you mean it's like their advice will be like second or kind of a third kind of opinion, and it takes you to go and make a few mistakes, then come back and think you're actually right here. No, she's been a stalwart within not only the development for me personally, but for us as a family.
Yeah.
She's the person that keeps everything together. So listen, I wouldn't be here without her being there. If you mean that's an absolute fact. And I'm a very loving and caring person, and that's how we're close to both sets of the family. So Lizzie's mum and dad, you've got Mary and Hughie, my mum and dad, Jane and Pat. We're all very, very, very close. I keep my. Do you know that way when you say you keep your circle tight? If you mean, I keep mine's very exceptionally tight.
We're very similar. Like that,
I keep it, and if we're having Christmas, if you mean, I want the family down at my house, which we do. So but there's also, because when you're running a business, you can't share what's going on or what's kind of happening, and you probably take a lot of shit home with you. And that's no different for somebody that's employed, or they're kind of they're self-employed, or kind of run their own business. There's stuff that you want to share and there's stuff that you won't share, and that's not to burden other people. Do you know what I mean? You'll just take that on your shoulders.
Absolutely.
And that's the entrepreneurial mindset that kind of I have to have, because if I had to sit down, and her job's very stressful, by the way, probably more stressful in times than mine's, because I'm managing director of what, CEO of what. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that role demands that there's different teams there, and you're doing this and you're kind of doing that and you're kind of doing that. So
as you say, it's like the orchestra. You're in the background just making sure everybody's doing the job that they're hired to. They're really good at what they do, and your job, first of all, as an entrepreneur, is to continue to take the risks and see opportunity, challenge, but also to stand at the back and just let them do their thing.
Definitely.
And then Lizzie lets you do that as well.
Massively, and what I was kind of touching on there is you just want to, the stuff that you share, the stuff that you can't share, because then it just puts a doom on the glass, because not all things is roses. I mean, it's not a bed of roses.
Absolutely.
It's tough. It's very, very tough. And if you're taking, you need to have a sanctuary where, and that's where our sanctuary is. When we go home, we put on, and we'll binge watch stuff on Netflix.
I call it shite TV.
But it's TV that kind of takes you away from the reality.
Absolutely.
That's what
my
you need.
Trigger. That's my thing, by the way.
Yeah, and that's our thing as well. Do you know what I mean? So it takes you away from the reality kind of a mundane. But like you, and like probably everyone else, what I do is I'm constantly on my phone. If you mean, you're constantly going through emails, you're constantly sending WhatsApp messages.
7 days a week sometimes.
And it's business, not, and you're trying to just not people please people, but you're trying to get things over the line, because if I'm not orchestrating it, or I'm not bringing stuff to the party for my team, then it becomes a point where you might not need that person within the team. So you need to lead by example. Absolutely. You need to be a leader from the front. I never ever consider myself a man manager. I don't like managing people. I'll never ever micromanage people. If you don't do what's expected of you, the likelihood is you'll probably not be there.
Absolutely. You try and build entrepreneurs in your team, and that's kind of your thing. You try and make all your employees, they almost have an entrepreneurial mindset. So they'll take risks and they'll go looking for opportunities and all that. That's kind of how you do it, isn't it?
Definitely. It's go and stand on your own 2 feet. Do you mean the youngest person that we've got in the office now is 17? We've got 23, we've got 27, 28, kind of 40. So when it starts getting any number, let's just brush over them, because I'll end up getting a bit of trouble. But we've got a young, vibrant team, and go and stand on your own 2 feet. You're going to make mistakes. And interviews when I have with people, is you're not the finished article. You're going to make mistakes, and making the mistakes is going to be the making of you.
Absolutely.
As long as they're not key critical, especially when you're in a financial environment. So we're FCA, part of kind of the Ombudsman, part of FIBA, part of the NCFB. We've got every accreditation going, because I want that for my professional credibility.
Absolutely.
From Channel's professional credibility. But if you're going to make a mistake, and then we can correct that, we can kind of fix it, and then we can kind of quickly move on. So, it's good.
But before we wrap up, I want to talk about, people will be listening, maybe they're in business, maybe sole traders, looking to grow and develop, and it's, as we've discussed, it's really hard work, because there's always the success and excuses path, right? And it's really easy to make excuses, isn't it?
Excuses. I know. I've probably been the bottom for a good while.
But it's easy, and the thing is, the excuses path it seems the easy path, but it's actually not, because nothing good happens there,
Yep.
right? And all we're basically doing is talking bullshit to ourselves. So somebody's listening now and they think, you know what Mikey's built and created, you know, it's quite impressive. You know, for you're only going back just with COVID, you're only going back, you know, a few years really.
Yeah.
You know, you're starting up the business and where it is now. So it's quite an impressive growth. But it takes guts and balls, right? So if you were a bit of advice to somebody who's about to start out, or they're starting out and they're worried about hiring their first employee, what would be your one piece of advice? If you could rewind back, what would that one thing be? What would you be saying to somebody? You're a mentor now. You're going to give them a bit of advice.
Yeah, so I would say is have your proposition, have everything laid out, come up with a business plan, a robust business plan, speak to an accountant, even if it's going to be for half an hour, 45 minutes, and know your worth. So, and what I mean by kind of a know your worth, if you're in some form of kind of an employment, then do what you want to do at night or over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Start building something. I was quite clear, if you mean that my image and the credibility of the business and the brand of the business, that was going to drive it.
Yep.
So even when I'm looking at my phone just now, if you mean like as in, well, you can see that there.
Yep.
You've got, if you mean, you've got channel funding group, channel finance group, insurance channel, channel asset-based lending, channel mortgages, channel secured loans. I had that vision 6-7 years ago.
Absolutely.
I had that. Do you know what I mean? So that was all in my mind, and we spoke to our graphic designer, Brian, and he says, right, what is it you want, Michael? And I said, I don't know what I want. He said, but if you don't know what you want, how can I help you? I'm saying, but I've got a vision. This is where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I said, so you're just going to need to come back and bring it to me and put it on a blank canvas. And my accountant, by the way, helped me with that. Do you know what I mean? So Norman, if you mean who's my accountant,
I know Norman very well.
Yeah. But Norman's probably one of the best guys I've ever met. It's in the same category as yourself.
Yep.
100%.
Knows his stuff, doesn't he?
He knows
his stuff.
Business, legal, accountancy, just a genuine, decent, honest human being.
I've got him on the podcast soon.
Have you?
I have, yes.
I love Norman.
I've got him on the podcast soon.
I'm going to tune into that. Hopefully he's complimentary about me. That Mikey Savage, he gives me so much fucking grief. He's very demanding, but when you're building it through, so if you're asking me what I did, if you mean, they were the kind of a two key parts in here, and then when you've got your graphic behind you of the brand, and then you've got what the business is, and bearing in mind, I started this when there wasn't really any, and no disrespect to the brokers that are in Scotland just now, but there wasn't, they never really had or evolved what was the offering down south, if you mean. So the further south you go, so like Newcastle down, then you start to see brokers at a 10 a penny. Mm-hmm. In Scotland, it's not. If you mean 9 times out of 10, people tend to go to their bank because they don't really know about brokers.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to change. And my strap line from the outset was, when I was sitting with Norman, was, I want to bring the bank manager back. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So people find it difficult. They didn't help me. They don't help a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So, and he works from an accounts environment. One of the challenges for his clients, the majority of the people that he worked with, was access to money. Mm-hmm. How can we get access to the money? So, yeah, business plan, putting together your what brand that you want, getting cash flow statements from like accountants, and then knowing your market. Mm-hmm. So who's the clientele that you need to work with? Mm-hmm. I mean, who are they? Where are they? How much revenue are they going to generate, and how much is it going to cost? And proposition yourself well. There's loads of other things that come into mind now, which I never had at my disposal then. You've got Instagrams now, if you mean. You've got Facebook more coming on.
TikTok.
And I was just about to say TikTok, and then you've got TikTok and everything. So that's one of the things that Laura from my office is working on now, and we're kind of trying to build that brand round about.
Really getting to know who the company is. That's right. Authenticity of the company.
100%, because that's a selling point. Because you've got, as I say to you there, you've got some brokers that are here that are part of, like, their appointed representative, kind of a bigger firm, and they'll go to open the crisp packets. Do you know what I mean? They'll literally go here and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm glamorous this and I'm kind of a glamorous that. But you're showing everybody all what everybody's expecting you to show.
You're not showing the real.
show the real person behind it, if you mean. So show the real Mikey Savage, or show the real Carlos, for example, or show the real kind of a Sean. Show the real person behind it, because they're ultimately the person you're going to have to work with. They're not interested in a red carpet. Do you know what I mean? And kind of putting that on.
I want to close this off, right, with one final thing.
Yes.
And this is something that I know that is part of your business model.
Yeah.
If somebody comes to you for a loan, right, and I think this is really important for everybody to hear. If somebody comes to you for a loan and you look at their business and you think to yourself, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
You won't get them. You'll tell them this is a bad idea.
I've done it.
You know, I know that's. I wanted to bring that up because you'll actually say, this is a bad idea. If you thought about this and thought about that before you get down that route.
I treat everybody the way that I would want to be treated myself. I'm not in it for making money. I don't need to make a quick buck or two. I'm thankfully at this position now. And listen, we all need money. Money makes the world go round.
It's nice to have.
But ethically and morally, and doing it the right way, rather than just making a quick buck. If you mean that's what will not be. And that's the message that I put on to the rest of the team as well. I've had many people, too many to mention, that have come in, they've sat with me in our boardroom, they've went through, and for all intent and purposes, you could get them something. But I know for a fact, given my superior knowledge around about the accountancy side of things, that 3, 6, 9, 12 months down the line, that is going to kind of hit atomic mass, and they're going to end up potentially losing their house. They're going to potentially use their kind of a portfolio. They're putting all their eggs into the one basket. If they want to leverage and start selling properties out with their portfolio and you've refinanced it all, then they're going to get hit with huge penalties, because then it's going to be like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1% element, if you mean, that they're paying back. And some of the portfolios that we deal with, if you mean, they're anything up to like 17, 18 million pound.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of kind of it's there. So when you're looking at it and you're thinking, right, I can make myself a wee bit of a payday here, because listen, we're all in it to make money. I mean, but you're trying to do it as ethically and morally as you possibly can. Equally, I'm saying this can't work. It won't work. Oh, we'll just go and speak to another broker. That's fine. I can understand that, but
be careful.
You're not going to get what you're looking for here. The desired effect. It might well be that you need to kind of put this way, or kind of do it, or restructure it this way, or you're going to need additional help, or let me get someone that you can speak to sell part of that portfolio off, or you need to sell kind of some of the equipment off. So we'll not necessarily always just jump into getting them some form of funding that makes it's a quick win. We don't do quick wins. Channel Finance does not do quick wins. If you're looking for funding,
quick wins for you might not be a quick win for the customer.
Well,
long term could end up financial disaster.
It will be a financial disaster. So we've walked away. So we're into February just now, and Channel Finance as a whole is probably walked away from, well, not probable, 3 deals we've walked away from, purely based on the fact that, and that's about 600 grand. That I just couldn't get my head around it, because everything within Channel runs through me.
Yeah,
everything. Even when I wasn't feeling well a week ago, do you mean I was still getting emails kind of over my desk and just kind of having a look at it? That's not micromanaging. That's a credibility factor. Absolutely. That's a professionalism.
You're
of the
making
business.
Sure this ticks the boxes. The ethical side, the Mikey side. Right? The Mikey, you want to be treated. You want to make sure that somebody's got your back. Basically,
my name's above the door, and when you become FCA authorisations, ultimately sometimes can give you like a big target. It's here from a credible perspective, but it's also there for folk to have like wee pot shots to you. So thankfully, we're never in that arena. We're never kind of in that area, and we just want to grow as big, morally, ethically as we possibly can, and having the right people. And we're trying to. We've now got this environment within Channel that we're attracting the next calibre of people, and this is what I'm all for that, because there'll come a time. Do you know what I mean where I'll need to probably take a step back, because listen, let's be brutally honest. There are people that's out there that's bigger than better than me. But the ones that I've got in the business now, in my personal opinion, in my humble opinion, there is no better, especially in Scotland. I've got the best guys.
And that is a great place to look at wrapping up, Mikey. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. I know your personal journey, hence the reason I wanted you on right at the start of this podcast. I've been part of your journey.
Yeah,
it's been a huge roller coaster. I mean, I've been in tears. You know, me and you have sat there and I've walked out at your house and been like, oh my God, my best mate. I mean, what am I, you know, really, how can I help and support? And the bottom line is this, right? And go back to the success and excuses. You've got that entrepreneurial mindset. You've got a growth mindset. We make mistakes, we fuck things up, but we just keep moving forward. And that's the magic, isn't it?
Listen, he who never made a mistake never get anywhere in life. I've made a shit ton of mistakes. Too many to mention, if you mean. But I've always bounced back in the way that you've never ever fucking messed MD around or fucked MD over. Because if you don't make mistakes, you never learn. And if you never learn, you never grow. And if you never grow, you'll not get anywhere. So making mistakes in life's part and parcel of the journey. Absolutely. It's just not making the same mistake twice.
Absolutely. And that's listening. Listen, Mikey, absolute pleasure, mate. And thank you for coming on the podcast. It has been a fantastic conversation, as I knew it would be.
No, listen, I've loved it. You know, I love you, James. I love Enos. And I'm inspired by everything that you do. Success or Excuses. Your book as well. Do you know what I mean? You're top guy. So it's a pleasure for me. Much. It's a pleasure.
And that's us a wrap, big man.
Yes.